You know, people are asking me all the time, how are you feeling about things and last year and this year and the players? And you all know we won the national title. We did that tour. I had to do a thing in New York, and after that it was over. Rearview mirror was taken out, moving forward. I would tell you the same with this season. You learn from each season. For me, there'll be a time to smell the roses. It's just not right now. So you move on. There were many things that happened that were good last year. There were many things individually for players that got better. I had a call last night about Nerlens. Nerlens should have come back one more year. The growth that he made in a year offensively was so unbelievable that if one more year of that, he'd have been I said, yeah, why don't you talk to him, see if he can change his mind. I mean, but you think of Willie, you even think of Archie, and here's the other thing I want to tell you. It's not just did they get better, did they learn about themselves? Because sometimes you learn about yourself in a season, are you ready, Marcus Teague, and you change it in the season. Sometimes you can't, they're just too young. They learn about themselves in a season, know that this isn't going to work, they change, and they get better. So part of last season was the beginnings of success for the coming year. So when I look at it, you know, there were things that I wish had been different. I wish Nerlens didn't get hurt and maybe guys got it and changed during the year, but it doesn't happen that way all the time. And as we move forward now, what we're about to undertake has never been done before. Trying to put teams together like this, where you're talking a big number of players, whether it be the Lakers, the Miami Heat, it takes time. There's a learning curve. There's a galvanizing process that we have to go through. And you know what? We're going to have to be patient. You know, we were somewhat patient our first year. Everybody, people in this room were patient. You know, what did we start, 9-7 that first year? It was 9-7 or 11-6, whatever it was. And we all dealt with it. You remember me saying we weren't an execution team that first year? We just weren't. And we also knew if we had a bad shooting night, we could get knocked off in the tournament. It's exactly what happened. You go 0 for 20 from the three-point line. Well, this team is different in the numbers that we're bringing in. So we're starting Monday as a staff. We're going to have a 2-day retreat. And what we're primarily going to be doing is what do each of these kids need from us? Because every one of these kids we're bringing in need to be coached, and they need something from us. I'll give you an example. We had Michael Gilchrist. Michael needed something from us that was different than what Anthony Davis needed from us, than what Marcus Teague needed us in a different way. Terrence Jones needed something different than Deron Lamb needed, or Darius Miller. Be more aggressive. I mean, every one of those kids needed us in different ways because it is about them. It is about players first. Well, this team we're coaching now with 8 new players, 4 or 5 returning players, each of these guys is going to need us in different ways. So the process, this galvanizing process, the patience we're going to need, we're starting on Monday. We need to say, okay, where are we going to go with this? What do each of these kids need? Because let me just say this, folks. They're a talented crew. We'll have a talented team. They need coached. Each individual player need coached. They need direction. They need to be taught the level of commitment, the intensity, the will to win has to come out. The alpha males that we didn't have a year ago, I think we have, but those guys got to do that. They can lead, but they got to lead us in the way they need to be led. Michael Gilchrist, how did he lead us? Breakfast Club. What did he do in practice? Was unbelievable in his work ethic. What did that mean? 2 years ago, we did not have one bad practice. Not one. Last year, we had about 5 good practices that I would say, in my mind, over the years, would be the kind of practices I felt comfortable with. So those are some things to throw out. Let me do this. because I love to keep people waiting for their questions they want to ask me. I'm going to go through the guys, the 5 guys right now that'll be on scholarship coming back. Willie Cauley has a chance of being one of the better players that I've ever coached. Is not delusional at all. Understood how far he had come, understood how far he needed to go, understood he could have been a first-round draft pick. He knew, but he came back anyway because he wasn't delusional. You have Kyle Wilshire. Body's got to change. 6th man of the year has to get better physically. We all know what his skill set is. He has to take his defense in all those areas of his game to another level, which I think he will. My hope is he makes the national team, Canadian national team, and it takes his game to another level. Alex Poitras learned a lot about himself and where he's going to have to take everything to be the player that he wants to be. Now, let me say that. That being said, he would have been in the first round if he put his name in the draft. He knew he wasn't ready. And again, he was being pushed by some corners to put his name in the draft, but he knew. Again, he wasn't delusional. He knew, I have to change. I've got to take this to another level. If he does and the competition brings out the best in him, it is scary how good he's going to be. He's not close to where he needs to be. John Hood, by the end of the year, for the first time, had a breakthrough. And I was excited for him. He was one of those guys that played. He had fun playing. He didn't feel the weight of the world on him. He didn't have anything to prove. He went out and played. And Jared Polson ended up being one of our better guards at the end of the year. So those 5, only Kyle, in a small way, has tasted the success that we want and expect here. The others have not. When you talk about the guys coming in, Aaron Harrison, big guard, can score the ball, should be and will be and is expected to be and will be demanded to be a lockdown defender. With his size, with his athleticism, you know, 1, we can play a big zone. 2, we should be able to press because we're going to be so big with our guard play and whoever we put up there. But it'll start with Aaron. We know what he can do scoring the ball, but we want him to do other things and, again, help define his game. Andrew Harrison, my hope is by the end of the year, he's just like some of the other point guards we've had. You look at him and say, hey, he can do things that other point guards can't do at his size, his scoring ability, and both of them are terrific drivers, which kind of tells you that we're going to go back to a lot more dribble drive. I've talked to a couple of my friends. We're talking about dribble drive into pick and roll into dribble drive because of the team. Dominic Hawkins, a young man from in-state that just kind of blew me away with his will to win, his temperament on the court, his demeanor in helping his team win a championship. You always want to coach guys who understand. By winning a state championship and being down 16 2 games, it shows what a tough mentality. And what I just went through, I wanted a tough point guard. I wanted one more tough, physical, how about this? Not just fighting physical tough. How about mentally tough? How about not break down? How about I'm bringing it? And I'm not afraid to be 16 down, and it has no effect on me. That's what I saw in Dominique and why we recruited him. Dakari Johnson, I watched him 2 summers ago, folks, and I'm going to tell you, he had a knee issue, and I looked at him and said, I'm not so sure. And then I watched him a little bit later, and I said, wait a minute. And then I watched him later in the season, could not believe it. The line of improvement for Dakari's like that. He's a kid that will get up 6 in the morning and work out. He's a great student. He does all the things, and he wants to be better. He was on a team that there were times he wasn't getting the ball, never said one thing, ran that court, posted up. When he did get it, he did good things. He's got great skills, and he's 7 foot tall. Marcus Lee averaged a triple-double for the season. like 11 blocks, like 15 rebounds and 18 points. Pogo stick, active, high energy, 6'10", 6'11", long-armed. I mean, another player who, again, wanted to be here. These kids all wanted to be here. This is where they wanted the challenge of this, and they wanted to do it together. So when you look at Marcus Lee, you'd say, well, he could have gone. He didn't want to go. He wanted to come here and take on this challenge. Julius Randle, truly a hard worker who can play multiple positions, who can play inside and out. You know, it's true. He's a beast. He's an alpha beast who will drive the team. Has a little bit of Michael in him in a different way. In my mind, there are good players out there. He's as good as any of them. Derek Willis, 6'9", 6'10", long, skilled big man from the state. Again, where his game goes, he wanted the challenge of this. I want to go every day against players this good to see how good I can be. Isn't that the greatest part of this? I mean, it's not, well, I want to go here so I can be the guy and the only man. I want to go here and be challenged. How good can I be? And the only way I'm going to find it out is going against the best. And I'm going to go against the best every day. Well, he's got a chance of really being good and being special. And then James Young gives you that 6'7" wing who flat can shoot the ball. Some of the issues, again, we shot a high percentage. I mean, when you looked at our numbers from last year, our defensive numbers, our shot blocking numbers, our offensive percentages, you would say we should have won more games. But we weren't as skilled as we needed to be, especially at crunch time. We weren't as skilled. We weren't as physically dominating as my teams in the past. This team should be. Now, that all being said about all those players, them individually, us coaching each individual player. Now, you're talking 13. It's not coaching 7 or 8. It's going to be a challenge. To bring that many together, really going to be a challenge. The galvanizing part of this will start this summer. We have some other things that we're going to do as a team that I have not done in the past that I think will help this team come together. Some of it is, you know, watch some movies together, some things of teams coming together. A team, what they had to do to sacrifice for each other. More than any team I've had, shared sacrifice is going to matter in this group. And they knew that coming here. I told every one of them, if you want to shoot 30 balls a game, you don't come here. If you want to be the only guy that's playing, that's the one guy everybody's talking about, you wouldn't come here. So I think, again, it's been laid out for them. Now the question is, will we all have the patience? Will I have the patience? There's no choice. It may be ugly early, and we're playing good teams early. Through January, we may not be a very good team. The point is, by the end of the year, we have the talent, the size, the toughness, the skill set. How do we get each individual being at their best? How do we bring this team together? That'll be the challenge of this. All right, I'll answer one question. I'm just kidding.
Now, you mentioned alpha males. You brought up the term. How do you integrate those types of personalities when you've got multiple guys that are like that?
You don't have as many as you think. This team will have maybe 2, but that's okay. And what happens is when you have multiple, which we had on my team 2 years ago, different guys can lead at different points in the year. There are times where a guy's not playing well or he's not into it, there's something happened, he's sick, he's not, well, he steps back and someone else steps forward. When you don't have that alpha male at all, you have to do things to try to lead yourself as a coach, and your team never can have the kind of success you want. You know, and you try to figure out who that could be or who will step up. A lot of times it's, you know, they are who they are in that regard. You know, those guys who will step up and grab, hold, and push the group and not be afraid to. That's what you're looking for when you have a good team.
Now, you talk about what players learned over the course of the year. What did you learn from last season in terms of bringing?
First of all, you have to have more than 8 scholarship players. You may ask why I did that. Because I was trying to protect players in the program. what you learn is you can't protect players. You can't protect them from competition. You bring in your group, and the guys that understand competition brings out the best, they strive and they get better. They don't have to play 30 minutes a game to reach their dreams. And so why I did it, if I had to do it over again, we would have had a couple more players. By not having a couple more players, guys were put in positions you have to play. And it's hard to change guys when they're in that mode. The other thing, and again, my wife and I talked about it, I don't have any regrets where I gave guys more than one chance to make it and it hurt our team. Like, why did you leave this guy there? Why didn't you just tell him, beat it, you're not going to be good enough, we're going to put you here? Because it's about each individual player. And I can tell you that guys got the full season to prove themselves and do what they were going to do. And you know what? I told my team, or my staff, we can't, if I'm going to err, it's going to be on the side of a player. Now, I know that's, well, the program's got to go and this kid's got to go. That's all good. But if it were your son, what would you want me to do? So if I'm going to err, it'll be on the side of a player, which at times hurts the program. Now, it's not how we've all been brought up to do this. It's how I do it. And so there were some things that went on that I should have changed to this and this, but I was giving guys that opportunity. And Alan and I said it, you can live without regrets. It may have hurt you for a season, but what's it doing to you? Nothing. But that young man had every chance to do what he was supposed to change, to do it. If he didn't, if he wasn't willing or wasn't able, now we know and we move on. But he got that full shot. So those were some things. But I will tell you again, can you imagine if all four of the guys put their name in the draft, we'd have had 4 first-rounders? Do you know what that means? This is about the players. This is about them getting better. Can you imagine that? Now, you could say why, however you want to say why, but that's a fact. The guys coming back should have come back. The guys that put their name in the draft, I'm going to do everything I can to help them. We're not changing how we do that.
How do you address just the almost overwhelming expectation that just handle the championship? It's not even going to be.
Well, I'm not hearing that, Jerry, at all, but I could imagine that's out there. It's probably because people are really rooting for us to do well. So that's probably part of the reason they want us to do so well. They're putting that out there to help us build this team right. I don't buy into any of that. I mean, if anybody thinks this is easy, we got a lot of coaches right now that have taken players that are the elite players and it hadn't worked out because it's hard. What we do here is hard. It's not the normal thing that goes on. Do I like it? No. Do I wish kids would stay for 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. I'm still trying to do things to get that rule changed so that they are, at least we encourage them to stay 2 years by doing things that make it possible for them to stay 2 years or 3. If they stay 2 with the summer, they're close to being graduated. There'll be a little year. Jody Meeks is coming back to finish up now. You know, I don't know if you saw that we had a 3.4 team GPA. That's ridiculous. 3.4? 12 guys over a B average. 12 out of 13. 10 out of 10 guys that have gone through the program. How about this? 25 out of 25 who have gone through the program. Through either going pro or finishing the term. 25 out of 25 have either, we call it the success rate here. Because it's a different situation. We're not working on a 25-year-old model here. It's different. It makes people mad when you talk about it. Oh, because you're not about academics. You don't care. You're a basketball factory. We had a 3.4 GPA. We've had 10 players graduate. We've had 2 players come back. We have 2 more players coming back to finish up. 25 out of 25 players have either gotten their degrees or going on to be pro basketball players. 25. That's the success rate. Drives you crazy, can't be. It's a conspiracy. Starts right up with the governor. But that's the numbers. That's a fact. And so here we are trying to do everything. And I talked to you guys about that. when we were here. That you're at Kentucky, you're expected, you're held to a different standard. Things that go on at other campuses can't go on here. Just can't.
Cal, you talked about going 40-0 before. When you assemble a team with this much talent, is that something you put out there as a challenge for them?
No, I won't. But there'll be things out there that'll be, you know, we're chasing perfection, we're chasing greatness, we're chasing things that have never been done in the history of our game. Well, what I like about that, you know, people say pressure. Man, pressure brings out the best. Pressure, you're going to be fired if you don't get this done. You're not going to make it if you don't get this. It wakes you up earlier in the morning. Don't mind a little pressure. I've had it my whole career. I've had the gun to my head for 20-some years. And you know what? I'm at my best when the gun is to my head versus, okay, I'm good, I can kick back. I'm not as good. And you know what? Players are the same. Now, I'm not sitting there saying if we lose a game, it's not a successful season. No, but you're chasing greatness. What's wrong with that? Well, we want to talk moment to moment, and we're not putting that on the kids. Well, we are. Any pressure on these kids when they come here? It's on us. Now, it won't be something that's the forefront thing we're talking about, but there'll be things out there that they'll see. But it's like we were at UMass, and, you know, one of the kids said, let's go undefeated. He said it, not me. You know who our first game was that year? Kentucky, in Detroit. And then we played Maryland and Florida. Our fourth game of the year was Wake Forest. Who's on that team? Oh, that Duncan kid. And then we played BC in Boston. Then we played Syracuse, North Carolina State, Southern Cal. Then we played Louisville. But guess what, guys? They said it. Let's go undefeated. Well, I didn't say it. That's the first time I looked at the guy. What do you need, drug tested? What are you talking about? We played Kentucky the first game. They're #1 team in the country. Well, you want them in a mentality that they can win every game. It's hard to. It's never been done in the modern era.
You said what we do here is hard. What makes it hard?
No, having 55 media show up for a summer, you know, I don't even know what this is. But it's being here. I mean, every game is someone's Super Bowl. I say it, and you all know it's true. I mean, they're storming the court. They're going nuts. I've had Mike Bray and I are friends. He apologized for them storming the court. I said, Mike, it's part of the college experience. You beat Kentucky, you storm the court. They'll remember that the rest of their lives. Well, think about that. Think about that. I mean, the game at Indiana, 20 years from now, how many people would have seen that in person? Oscar, how many? 400,000? I was there. Really? There's 400,000 people that saw that in person and chased the court. And you're beating Kentucky. So being here I come back to it's not for everybody. Just not.
On paper, have you had a team as deep as this one and I guess maybe as versatile?
Well, I'm not deep at every position, but we got a lot of good players and just figuring out who's who. But what I like is there's going to be competition. Some guys are going to play, some guys are not going to play. Who? No one's been promised anything. Just how it is. I mean, they're going to have to compete with each other, and you're not going to play 13 guys. We all know that. Probably playing 8 or 9 guys. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's do the math. If we play 8 or 9, that means 4 or 5 aren't playing much. Well, who are those 4 or 5? Well, it'll be decided when we're playing basketball. Will we play different? Absolutely. We'll press more. We'll foul more. Because that's the way the game's going. Now, they're saying all this stuff about the charge block and we're not going to let the fouling go. Do you really believe that? You watch the games. The more you foul, the more you shoot free throws. I don't understand how that works. So we're going to press and play more physical and bump and grind, and we'll put our arms up in the air and we'll hip check guys, and that's how we're going to play. I mean, now we have numbers, you know, and again, my philosophy had always been 6 fouls. That's all you want to have in a half because you don't want them to shoot one-on-ones. We're not playing to foul. But now we have numbers. We'll play more toward our team, how this team needs to play.
how important are the summer months in terms of getting them prepared as a new group coming together, understanding the academic responsibilities and things like that, as they prepare to be?
June 1st, when they get here, it's the whole process of earning their way into single rooms, earning their way into the locker room, that trying to make this an earned process. No one's given anything here. You're going to earn your way. So we're doing some things a little different with this group. Probably our season ended probably earlier than I can even ever remember one of my seasons ending. And we did more at the end of this year. I'll be honest with you, we've never done postseason stuff because we were always to the last week of the season, then they had finals, and then they went home. Well, this year we had 4 weeks. And I would hope that what they went through, they don't ever want to go through again. So we better extend the season just so we don't have to face that.
Cal really told us that his mindset has changed since the end of the season. Have you seen that?
You know what I love the most? Hated school. He'd have told you, beginning of the year, I hate school. And I appreciate an honest guy. And you know what he said by the end of the year? You know, I'm kind of loving this. I'm good now. The school part of it, I'm liking. Well, part of what we have to do here is not only the love of basketball. You got to find out, not everybody loves playing the sport. They're just big, so they were supposed to play, so they play. When you find those guys, you run from them. But believe me, they're at every level of basketball. The second thing is you're trying to create a love of learning, reading books, the things that Willie, because he did not like school, he and I had books we read together. I'd get him a book and he'd read it, I'd read it, and I'd ask him questions about it. So it's more than just, these kids are young kids, they're 18. It's your own child. Learning to crawl, learning to walk, learning to talk right, learning to be mannered, socially learning their way. What makes these kids different? Well, they're bigger. Really? So now a kid's 6'10", so he's different than your own child. And that's why I say the patience of this, the galvanizing that we have to do, keeping people away from them, because the people in their ear truly only care about that person, not our team or the other guys. They like the other guys, but they don't like them as much as they like you. And so that stuff is going to be part of this too.
There's a lot of talk during the season last year that the college game needs fixing. Do you agree with that? How would you?
Well, I like the start, the charge block. I mean, you guys know what I've said. It's the most ridiculous thing. A guy goes to shoot a ball and a guy slides under, and they said, well, he was still, his little toe was still on the ground when he was going to shoot it, and that guy was now set. It's crazy. So the first step is that. And then the other step is calling the fouls. Just call them all. If a team wants a foul on every possession, call a foul on every possession. And then they go through a team. They'll play a game with 3 players. You start changing. It happened in the NBA. The hand check, and I was there. You either changed or you were now freedom of motion. It's important. You're dribbling the ball up the court, and a guy hits you. Now they're saying that's going to be called a foul. Boom, boom, I make a move, and you boom me, that's a foul because you're my freedom of motion, movement. If I pass it and cut through the lane and you hit me, it's an automatic foul. If they make those calls, you'll see the game. We could go to a 15-second shot clock. You won't get a shot off because you get fouled on every possession. You could have a 45-second shot clock. It really doesn't matter. It is us as coaches teaching and the officials making the calls and being held to that standard.
How much of a setback was losing him?
I'm as confident before and after his decision, and I wish him well. I mean, he's a great kid, and he's going to be a terrific basketball player. It didn't change me any. I was confident in this team and the group we had before and after.
Cal, how much of the way people perceived Alex was about where he is? I mean, if he had done what he did last year, wouldn't at most schools people be excited that he was coming back, not wondering, you know, is this kid going to fall flat on his face?
Because the standards here are higher, and that's why kids come here. And he has nothing to do with anything other than now you got a competitive spirit going because it's you and a guy every day in practice. And it's going to bring out the best in him. Believe me, he wants to do well. I don't believe I can tell individuals if they got a 4.0. I can't say those things. So, but he did well academically. I mean, so, I mean, he is a conscientious kid. This overwhelmed him. It overwhelmed him. You think of yourself, if I put you in there, it wouldn't overwhelm you? There are kids that come here that take longer. I mean, I always say, it doesn't matter to me if you take 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. Does it really matter? I just want you to get it so you're ready to go on and have success. Some kids, Terrence Jones, it took 2 years. Darius took 4 years. Now you look at Darius, do you know what they say? Anthony Davis told me, Coach, you won't believe this. We play Darius Miller as a stopper on defense. Think about that. So, you know, he's tougher now. He's more aggressive. I watched him in the gym in there. He makes every shot now. Well, he was now ready to go on to have success. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Alex, it's taken a little more time. And if it takes another year, what's the problem? What if it takes him 3 or 4 years? What's the problem? Well, we're not on the 25-year-old model here, and if you don't make it in 2 or 3 years, what's wrong with you? What? And the only kids held to that standard are here. Probably we've done it to ourselves, but.
Well, you've had, now you're 4 years into this, you've had a lot of former players coming back in the summer. Do you expect, you know, a lot of those guys to come back this summer? And if so, how much will the ability to play pick up with those guys when your new guys get here, give them maybe, you know, a jump start of sorts?
Well, they're probably going to get on these guys they don't want to go through what last year meant to them. You have to understand, in the NBA or in their workplaces, everyone knows they went to Kentucky or played at Kentucky. Everyone knows. Everyone in the building is hoping Kentucky loses so they can go up to that guy and say, how your boys doing? You want to, what do you think's going to happen next game? That guy did it. Well, those guys want none of that. So they're going to come back and probably challenge these guys. You have an obligation. The history and tradition of this place, understand what it means. And that'll be great for our guys coming back. When we do the fantasy experience, we're going to probably have a bunch of those guys back and do something that we'll announce later. You know, the camps are as crazy as ever, you know, doing satellite camps around the state. I think the overnight camp's just about sold out. You know, I think that the satellite camps, the father-son is crazy. The pro camps are, you know, it's all, but that's where we bring those guys. The fantasy experience will do something. We have some fun things, not ready to announce them yet, but there's some things we're going to do with former players that I think that, you know, our fans will go nuts over. During that stuff's in September. But I think it's great for them to come back. It's more or less, do you understand what it means to be here and what you're going to have to do? When Anthony and Michael can take the 5th and 4th most shots, does it really matter how many times you shoot the ball? And 1 and 2 pick in the draft. What's your deal? You want to get 20 shots in a game, or are you worried more about your growth as a player to put you in a position to do special things? Those are great lessons when those guys come back.
Yeah,
Incoming guys said, you know, on the McDonald's game, they thought they were so competitive, they could see themselves fighting each other.
Yeah, I've had that in teams, and it's the thing is when they walk off the court, it's got to end right there. And I've had teams that laugh about it when the, you know, practice is over and, you know, hard screen somebody, the guy comes up, you know, pushing and shoving and it has to be broken up. Yeah, there's a competitive spirit. And I think what it does is it'll drag us to where we're trying to go. I'm going to tell you, 2 years ago, we did not have a bad practice, not one. So that led us to building a swagger and a confident level that we knew we could win every game we play. We just, let's be at our best, and if we weren't and someone got us, fine, next game.
What does Andrew Harrison bring as a point guard? You have different types, all successful. What does he bring to it?
Great size, great ability to get to the rim, great skill level with the ball, has a mentality of a point guard where he'll get everybody involved. But again, we've got to learn more. I've got to get him here and say, okay, what is exactly the best way for him to play? Because your point guard's got to score also, which he does. I think the dribble drive and pick and roll for him, he plays with great pace already, is really going to be good for him.